Bhagawan, she can do whatever she wants. Immediately, Narada, everybody, hey, can you go calm him down? And then, of course, he got more ferocious. And Lakshmi Ma, who is the goddess of fortune, who always sits on his heart, realized that when he manifested without her. It's the only form of Dasavatar that doesn't have Shri on him. Because it was so quick. It was so focusing on protecting this boy, because at that moment, Hiranyakashipu grabbed Prahlad and he said, can you imagine you telling your son, now I will remove your head from your torso? And he was serious. Unless your God comes immediately. And then, obviously, boom. So, Lakshmi, she almost was not humble, because she's always humble, but she understood that he came for this boy. And that through this boy's prayers, he will be able to reveal so much for the following. Jai Shri Hanuman. Jai. So then she pushed the boy, and there's quite a few paintings I've seen over the years. And the boy, Prahlad's being, Lakshmi, Prahlad, please, do what you have to do. And then these gorgeous prayers Prahlad's offering to Narsimha. But actually, Narsimha was just relishing this boy, his sweetness, the purity of youth, right? Like if you look, Prahlad, Dhruva, the four Kumaras, these are very powerful. And why were they powerful? Because they had no envy, jealousy, and anarthas. As we get older, right? If my only example I can give is like, if I tell my wife she did something wrong, heavy problem. Because of pride and ego as we get older, anarthas. Envy, jealousy, trauma, this, that. What do you mean I did something wrong? You did something wrong. So, but a child, I know, because my child, and I'm sure people here, your child will just tell you straight, hey, don't do that, that's wrong. Why did you say that to me? Immediately. And how can you be angry? They're telling you the truth without pride, envy, jealousy, and trying to hurt you. So just like Prahlad Maharaj's teachings are really one of the most foundational essence of our philosophy. That's why Prabhupada wrote that book, Prahlad Maharaj's teachings. And I tell people, the first life coach, I don't know if any of you are into that, there's life coaching or therapist stuff, I don't know if anybody sees therapists, but is Prahlad. Because he's giving the remedy of all of our problems, our headaches due to this, our sadness due to that, our depression due to this. He's saying right there, this little child, what to do. And very simple. He says, yes, you can go to the forest, but I don't know if any of you want to head to the forest now. Maybe not a good idea. Or he says, or if you can't do that, then do this. And it will make you happy spiritually, which will then in turn make your material, the bondage that we're in, eating, sleeping, making, defending, it'll spiritualize it. And we won't be so much affected by the happiness and distress. So yeah, this boy was so far out, and that intimate form of Prahlad Narsimha is not mentioned in the Shilpa Shastras, or the Agamas, Puranas, Vedas, Upanishads. What form I took to when I was young was Ugra Narsimha. He's tearing Hiranyakashipu apart. And Madhva, Ramanuja, Shankara, even Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada told his disciples, do you know what form he said every grihastha should have in their house? That painting of Ugra Narsimha where all the blood is there. He didn't say Shanti Narsimha, Prahlad Narsimha, Lakshmi, no. He said Ugra Narsimha. Because for grihasthas, I'm talking about in a painting form or an idol, not shalagram. Grihasthas are forbidden to worship Ugra Narsimha Shalagram. this form represents the nails, which Madhvacharya talks about. What did he pluck from Hiranyakashipu? Envy. He envied his boy because his boy was worshipping Vishnu, who killed Hiranyakashipu's brother. He was jealous of Prahlad's conviction. So, jealousy, envy, greed, pride, ego, chaka. He removed those. Because in the end, Hiranyakashipu was a pure devotee. I always tell people on ISKCON, they often focus, he was a demon. This is a heavy word, right? Demon. If you look at demons, they're killing kids, they're torturing people. Actually, this demon was on God's lap, and God was touching him before he touched the boy. So Hiranyakashipu is amazing. In some temples, they worship him because of the connection, right? The Jai Vijay. And they worship him because they don't want to become like him. So they ask, please. You'll see there's a lot of temples. It's called, in Andhra, each temple, they'll praise the temple in the form. What is this called? I'm getting old. No. Anyways, it's a particular mantra or prayer from a devotee or the community of devotees. Like if you were praising your deities, oh Shri Narita. Maybe, yes. It's like a so a lot of these temples, they would praise the Lord in their own individual ways, right? And they would always say, just like, you came for this boy. Please come for me, take my hand and save me. Shankara, I think it was 28 verses. Please come take my hand and save me. Oh, the serpents which have been let loose in my mind, and I'm struggling in this samsara, right? Such a powerful verse. We say Shankara Mayavad. Shankara was a crazy Narsimha Bhakta, and some of the most potent prayers about Narsimhadeva from Shankara, and what he's focusing on is samsara. Some of the things he says, like, I've fallen into this black well, I cannot see anything, and I am being bitten by malicious cobras, which are my senses, my false ego, my kindly, please take my hand and lift me out of this well. Beautiful things. So each place, each temple would have a saying about Narsimha, and they really would focus on how he protects your bhakti and how he protects you in the situation you're in. Not that you have to, like I said, give up, like Arjuna, right? I can't deal with this, Krishna. I'm out of here, going to the forest. And Krishna was like, hold on a minute. You're married, buddy. Not so easy. Yeah, I'll stop you before your wife stops you. Basically, you can't do this. You can't just leave. But you can have this mentality, Madhva talks about it, the mentality of being in the jungle, doing tapasya in your mind, right? Control the chittas, and you can do your duties. Brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha, sannyas. So every ashram, Narsimha is the protector of grihasthas. That's why all the hundreds of, I've seen 1,442 temples so far in my life. 27 years I'm doing my research. There's so many more. Every single Uber Narsimha temple is worshipped by grihasthas. Happy, heavy mota, happy guys, happy wife, happy kids. It's a misconception that grihasthas, actually I always encourage, if you're attracted to this form, he'll remove the unnecessary greed and lust and envy and jealousy, and then he'll protect you. He says, I will protect you from envy of others. I will protect you from yakshas, rakshasas, scorpions, viciousness, the people that hide within caves of darkness. He says it. He doesn't say, I'm only going to protect the brahmachari and sannyasi. This is crazy. They have it easy. And so as I grew older, I realized, my God. And then in Hobalam, you have the Nava Narsimhas, right? I was like, what in the heck is Kroda Narsimha, Chintamani Narsimha, Bhargava, Kevala, Kanaka Narsimha, Girija, Shanta Narsimha, Shanti Narsimha, Yoga Narsimha, Yoga Bhoga Lakshmi Narsimha, and then Rudra Narsimha. This is very special. I also realized, in South there's always this fighting. Shiva, Narayan. The Shaivites, Shiva's Bhagavan. Narayan, it's like kids, And even though all the Shastra says Hari Hara, they are one, but not. They're different. Shiva rules passion and ignorance, actually ignorance. But in Narayan is goodness. So every temple I went to, without a doubt, whether in Gujarat, Rajasthan, the Himalayas, Shiva was always there with Narsimha. Whether he was there in a lingam in the Garbhagriha inside, or just outside, he had a separate temple. He was never not at a Narsimha temple. And the Brahmins always would tell me, Rudra Narsimha, Hari Hara. I was like, I thought that was like ISKCON thing, Hari Hara. And in the beginning, I wasn't taking in the information. I was just taking in another form. I need to see him. I need to touch him. I need to be with him. But as I got older, I was like, my God, yeah. And when Lord Shiva killed his son, Ganesha, he didn't know. He came back and there was this boy in his bed and the head was off. He didn't get away with that. It wasn't just, he had to do tapasya to be free from this sin, even though he's sinless. Still, he has to follow the rules, right? So Narad Rishi, he always shows up at the right time, came and said, Shiva was depressed. What did I do? So Narad said, you have to go do tapasya. And Shiva's always talking about Narayan, Krishna, Vishnu. He's sitting there. Who's in front of him? The Saptarishis, the four Kumar, everybody is there. And he's just praising Bhagavan. So he always, like in Vrindavan, he's Gopishwar Mahadev because he tried to sneak in to the Ras Leela. In the Narsimha Leela, Hiranyakashipu and Ravan were Shiva's greatest devotees. So Shiva gave Hiranyakashipu a boon. He said, if you call me, I will come. So once Hiranyakashipu realized, I'm done, Narsimhadeva, I'm going to be killed. It was the first time he experienced fear. And a lot of the great acharyas speak on this. Hiranyakashipu was fearless. But that was the moment he realized, he called on Rudra. And Shiva, of course, wanted darshan of Narsimha before anybody. So he came. And then some say he fought with Narsimha just to please Hiranyakashipu, his devotion. And then Lord Narsimha said, okay, now you must go. And then this form of jwala, he burst into flames, emanating flames of fire. Then he grabbed, there's that verse, like a mouse. A cat grabs a mouse, right? And he pulled him over by the neck. And he placed him. And he wasn't sitting when he killed him. This is totally not correct. He was dancing in the doorway. His left foot was down, his right knee was raised. Some of the Shastric depiction is Garuda was holding his toe, that was balancing Hiranyakashipu, or Sesha, Ananta Sesha, or Lotus. He slid Hiranyakashipu, and Hiranyakashipu wasn't giving up. He was going crazy. So then, there's this form where Narsimhadeva then burst, 5 heads came out. Complete joy, sadness. He didn't want to have to do this. This is his devotee. Anger. And complete bliss looking at Prahalad. And then 32 arms came out. And then he was holding Hiranyakashipu's neck. One hand smashed the crown off. Then he was holding his arms, putting his legs, then his nails went into him. And then he took out And Ramanuja explains from the Taittiriya Upanishad how he was so into it and so disappointed. This boy was being tortured for how long? Nobody came. Brahma didn't come. None of the Indra, Agni, nobody came to stand up. Only Narad Rishi came. And Narada said, Hiranyakashipu, maybe it's not a good idea to try to kill your kid. What do you think? Because Narada is such an amazing, he's totally neutral, So he can go anywhere. And Hiranyakashipu said, Narada, thank you, but mind your own business. And then Narada, of course, because he's the ultimate example of humility, he gives the advice and instruction, but he doesn't have an attachment to the result. He left. Narsimhadeva was so upset. Ramanuja comments on how he dug his nails and then Hiranyakashipu disappeared. The body was gone. And Narsimha came back. There's a form where his eyes rolled back in ecstasy of finally freeing Prahlad and Hiranyakashipu. And he looked down and he said, where is Hiranyakashipu? And then he looked in his, Vajra, the nails, the fingernails, and he was in there. And he went, and Hiranyakashipu went everywhere. And then he had this hysterical laugh of joy, craziness, everything in one, right? In which they say that laugh is the bell. Ding, ding. It's all sounds resounding in one. So that Narsimhadeva's laughter was like that. It dissipated and destroyed all evil everywhere. And then Lakshmi wanted to come and he further got angry. And then he pushed the boy. So it's a far out story on so many different levels. But for me, as I got older, I was focusing on this form of yoga Narsimha, even though for years I'd seen hundreds of his temples of yoga Narsimha. It didn't, in every temple I went, God of yoga. Yoga God, they called him. And I was like, yeah, okay. And as I got older and I was speaking to the head swamis of these different traditions, Narsimha is the God of yoga. Now we have this guy, Sadhguru, you know him? I met him. Nice guy. I met Sai Baba, I met all of them. Because even though Sai Baba had his anarthas, he helped me a lot. And when I was young, I was very arrogant, like young boys are, and young, beautiful girls. I would go to Portapati, where his ashram was, and the men were on left side, the women were on the right, and Swamiji he was facing. And the temple, it was built to where the floor went up, so nobody had to look over anybody. So I was in the back and I refused to bow. You're supposed to offer pranams, or I refused. I was just, he had a fro, it just wasn't my deal. So he saw this and he called me. And so I went and met with him. And he helped me a lot on my travels. Gave me an ambassador with a translator, which helped me so much. But I didn't speak Kannada or Telugu. And he asked me, he was very small, Sai Baba. I'm tall, he was a little short guy. And he was just normal, a human, with me. Because I refused to worship him as a god, like everybody else was doing. So he said, Dhruv, can you just... He would tell me all these temples. Go here, go there. Have you been to Ahobalam? Oh, it's one of my favorite places. Have you been here? Alampur and this place. And I had a 35mm camera, and you used to take the film in and get it processed in India. And he said, all I ask for is can I see the photos you take? Of course. Absolutely. So I would go through, maybe it was like 8 times before he died. And I would always show him the photos. And he was like a kid in like a candy shop. Like every photo, he was like, wow, this one. And then he would tell me a story. When I was young, I went there with my uppa or my uncle or something. Kripalu helped me. You know this guy, Kripalu? It's funny, he says he is Krishna, his wife is Radha, and his son is Mahaprabhu, I don't know. Anyways, I lost track. Yeah. Yeah, I spent good time with him. His siddhi, because obviously Krishna says if somebody has power, beauty, fame, fortune, knowledge, renunciation, that's me. So I always respected that. Here's somebody obviously who has some sort of potency. Obviously they wouldn't have hundreds and thousands, millions of disciples and be wielding such, whether we want to call it mode of goodness potency or all that, that's another thing. I was just concentrating on finding Narsimha. I didn't get too much into the personality. So Kripalu had a photographic memory of any shastra. And when I was young, we were taught never to go past 10th canto in this Rasa Tattva. We are not, at least in ISKCON where I grew up. So I've never read past any of this intimate stuff. We would sing the Geet Govinda every night to the deities, especially in Mayapur and in Vrindavan. But we never, so, and there was a lot of Goswami's writings, very intimate stuff. So I stayed away from all that, but Kripalu Maharaj was an expert in this type of stuff. So I had heard how the gopis sometimes would call Krishna Narsimha. So I was thinking, I don't want to speculate on it. And then obviously Nanda Baba, there's that temple in Nandagaon, 5,000 plus year old temple. That's Nanda Maharaj worshiped that deity of Narsimha. And Yashodama would put the, I have a lion nail, the double one on Krishna while chanting the Narsimha mantra. Some say it was the Narsimha Gayatri, some say it was Ugram Vida Mahavishnu. Still there's not an exact. So obviously Narsimha was there. So I asked this Kripalu, and I said, is it like, I heard the gopis called, I don't want to get into the intimate stuff. I don't want to hear this. What's up? He said, they were coward boys and girls, so they would fight like boys and girls do. Young teenagers, they're playing sports, so they would play sports, and it would get a bit aggressive. So one story, the gopis ganged up on Krishna. Now that's terrifying. You're a young teenager, you got like 20, 30 girls, and they were like beating him.
Hello, Moto.
They were beating him down, they were like beating him up. Obviously he was relishing it, but Krishna became, they say, Ugra Narsimha Rupa. He showed Narsimha's face and started scratching at the gopis. So then the gopis ran in fear. And they said, Narsimha Krishna, don't tear us apart like you tear Hiranyakashipu apart. Please have mercy. So that story blew my mind. I was like, wow. And just like Ram was saying earlier, when Jai Shri Shivantai, Shri Ram Sita Lakshman Hanuman ki Jai, Shri Narsimhadeva ki Jai. Shri Prabhu ki Jai. Speaking of Ram, Lord Ram, when he came back and Ravan had abducted his Sita, some of the acharyas like Madhva and Shankara say he, for a moment, burst into Narsimha Rupa. And he was wanting to destroy the entire universe. Because in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, it explains how Krishna and Ram, Vamana, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Narsimha, and I think that's it, 4 or 5. They all have the same qualities. So Narsimha can have Raslila and have a flute, but obviously he won't. That's not his pastime. Same with Vamana. And Mahaprabhu showed so many, right? He showed Narsimhadeva, he showed so many different aspects of the incarnations. So Ram showed this form, and Lakshman, of course, being the calmed him down, and then he went forward in Dharma rather than just slaughtering everybody. Because Ram was the perfection of Dharma and righteousness. So that would have been cheating, becoming Narsimha. Easily he could have. So, yeah, in my later years, now obviously I'm old, so Yoga Narsimha is very in my seva, in my worship, because of how important the teachings he gave to Prahlad about. See, Prahlad Maharaj, he got 2 boons, right? First he said, forgive my father. And then Narsimha said, that's not, he's already obviously forgiven. And then the second was, he said, please remove, what did he ask for? Does anyone remember?
Kill my desires.
Yes, and also kill all humanity's desires of envy, jealousy, greed. Can you imagine? If God asked me for I don't know. Some of us might wish for a Ferrari or a big house, I don't know. But, or unlimited wealth, you know, the typical, as a human being, we have desires. This kid asked to free people from the nonsensical anarthas. That's power. So, it's written how yoga, the actual bhakti yoga, the yoga tradition, not this hippie stuff, you know, downward dog and all these poses. Like sitting in Padmasana and concentrating the mind on Narayan, Bhagavan, within us, and not being controlled by these crazy senses or the mind. So this is called controlling the chitta, the uncontrollable mind. Narsimha was. So when he asked, what do you want, Prahalad? Prahalad said, free my father. Narsimha replied, this is commentary on some of the acharyas, the Saptarishis especially comment on this. Nard Rishi, because he can come and go. Narsimha said, have you forgiven your father? Really? So it's like acknowledging, right? You know how they say sometimes, forgiving the abuser, it's very hard for us to do. Like a lot of my friends, unfortunately. I was born in ISKCON. So I'm one of the few that didn't have unfortunate experiences in the Gurukul system. So it's easier for me to throw this word around, forgiveness. I wasn't abused, verbally, mentally, emotionally. This kid was tortured, poisoned, blood stabbed, elephants crushing, thrown off the mountain. And then his dad said, well, they can't kill you, now I have to. So imagine the trauma. Imagine this. So Narsimhadeva said, you must sit. And now we have to go to Garuda Ajri. Garuda, Kanaka Narsimha, you take us away from this place. No more darshan of Brahma. Everybody was coming to offer their salutation. No? So they went and they did what is classed as yoga, meditating completely upon. Madhva explains how Narsimha was meditating on Prahlad's devotion, and obviously Prahlad was meditating on Bhagavan. And what gets Bhagavan the happiest? His devotion, this devotee's devotion. So when Prahlad actually forgave his father, not in just words, but in his mind, and his body, and his soul, this began true yoga. Not being controlled. There's nothing within there, under the layer of layer of layer, and 25 years, it's going to come out. Hey, my appa really hurt me. You know, it was cleared. So through this system of yoga, bhakti yoga, which is love in devotion to Bhagavan, we can actually have forgiveness for our own anarthas, what to speak of what others with anarthas do to us. And then the Saptarishis then meditated on the Lord throughout India. When Tamil Nadu, there's a place called Sholingar, and then Namakkal. I mean, it goes on and on. Madurai, and it's always on top of hills. The Saptarishis are famous for being on top of mountains, away from, because if there's a rishi or yogi, if you read the scriptures, the wife is always like, hey, you need to go get blessings. Get out of here. Go see Swamiji. So the Saptarishis want to kind of be a little out of that, so on top of mountains. So they were doing tapasya to have vision of Yoga Narsimha, Shanti Narsimha, and then Lakshmi Yoga Bhoga Narsimha, which he became so relaxed and happy. That form, Lakshmi is staring at him. Sometimes she's offering him a flower. She's not concerned with us, she's concerned with her Lord. And Narsimha is saying his eyes are looking a little at her. They're looking at each other. It's an amazing form. So the Saptarishis, he manifests, and then so many other devotees in their dhyana or their vision. Like right now I'm doing my second book called Narsimha, the God of Yoga. And because I studied the traditional art in South India, I can't paint. My brother's expert at this. I just know the science. I'm the worst artist in the world. But the science of it interests me. So one of the aspects of the Shilpa Shastra is, okay, you have the divine measurement, right? They call it the tala. So like from here to here, and then down, 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 down. If you can go all the way down to your toes, and it ends perfectly at the tip, your measurement is correct. If not, then it's a whole nother thing. Astrology, blah, blah, all this other stuff. So within this strict kind of system of the agamas, Vaikanasa agamas, the Shilpa Shastras, there's the bhakti, or the love. Again, bringing it back to where it's relatable to Gaudiya Vaishnavas, where the sculptor, the painter, is painting the Lord. He has to do austerity, especially Narsimha. If they're married, the man has to be celibate, move out and be away from his wife. If he's painting Narsimha, sculpting Narsimha. And sometimes the person who commissioned, the king, the whatever, devotee, this is the form I would like. But then Narsimha will manifest in a dream. Because imagine, you're painting, sculpting God. What are you thinking about the whole time? I better not get this wrong. Is this measurement of the Lord perfect here? The fingernails, the feet? So you're completely in that bhav. So then the Lord will come, and then a form like you have Prahlad Narsimha in Germany. You know this ISKCON temple we have? Anybody know? Oh, you don't know this? It's the first actual, New Vrindavan is the first, and then Mayapur is second. But they're in a temple, right? They're not separate but in Germany, this awesome story, they have a Prahlad Narsimha. It's like a replica of this painting above the door here. And it's a really far out form. And even the Shilpa, who was in Kerala, and Kerala is not famous for Shilpas, deity carvers, but this guy was, somehow he ended up there. They just sent the guy a letter, this was back in the 80s, early 80s. They sent him, took months to get there. He got it, and they described the form they want. They would like Narsimhadeva deity with Prahlad, but he had a vision where Narsimhadeva was there and Prahlad was sitting on his lap, on the side where Lakshmi sits. So it's really far out deity. It's in the middle of like the forest, in the middle of nowhere in Germany, in a barn, in an old horse barn. It's an ISKCON temple. And they didn't get permission from the deity ministry. They just installed him because so many devotees had dreams at the same time where Narsimha was saying, I want to come here. They were first going to do Radha Krishna. Oh no, they had. But Narsimha came in the dream and said, no, only me. And it was like hundreds of them had the same dream. So they had to kind of give in. And so they sent the money. They didn't hear from the guy, I think, for years. One day they get a call from the German customs, and they said, hey, you have 1 day to pick up this box that's been sitting here for months. And they're like, what are you talking, what box? It's some box from India. And so I think it was Krishna Kshetra Swami. Back then he would have been Krishna Kshetra Prabhu. Him and I forget who else. They went there. They somehow found a flatbed tractor or something and drove there. And it was a box full of sand with the deity in it. And that's how he managed. They didn't even know he came. No, it was far out. So Narsimhadeva, most of my travels, that's how it kind of worked out. And most of your grandparents would have had Narsimha idols in their homes. But nowadays, a lot of these swamis, they take them out and put them in their ashrams. Like if you're part of a particular, like the Shankara or Madhva, so then you have to give your deities. So yoga, Narsimha is now, I tell people, now is the time for Narsimha. What do we need? A protector. Look at, we had COVID. What in Narsimha's, most of the prayers is no disease can touch you if you are surrendered to me. How many prayers say the same thing? I will burn the diseases. Because in the Puranas it explains each disease is an entity. They come to Yama, the god of death, They have a form like us, obviously, probably more beautiful. And it's through karma, the person's karma, because cancer is a living thing, right? It's living. Any doctors come yet? No. Cancer is living, no? It's like it's eating. So this form. So I've met Brahmins. I was in Karnataka, and one of this temple is mentioned in my second book. The name is I forget. So many temples. On top of this mountain, they say Prahlad, after Narsimha left, he went to Melkote, he went to different places. And in this place, he went and a perpetual spring came and he was meditating on the Lord. And then Narsimha manifests on this kind of stamba, stone sticking up on this little mountain. So I went there, and this Brahmin, he spoke good English, and he said, I was an IT guy, rich guy, managing all of Microsoft's things in Bangalore or something, And I could tell he was, he had like a lot of gold, and he was educated in the West. And he said, this was my family. They've been doing puja here for like 700 years. He said, but I didn't have time for this. No interest. And I said, oh wow. He said, and I was the last son, and only son of my father, so it was my duty. And he said, but I figured I would just make a bunch of money, pay a Brahmin, and when I get old, that's what we all say, when I get old. So he said he got terrible cancer. I don't know if it was stomach cancer, something that, and it was already like, he was finished. And so his grandfather, who was still alive, he was like 99, told him, pray to Bhagavan, Narsimha, Swami. He will destroy this. So he said at first he didn't take it seriously, and then the cancer was getting noticeably, he was not being able to do anything. Got bedridden. So his family said, you must come back to India. You're not going to die in the West, sorry. So they brought him back to their little village, and he had a dream the night he arrived. And Narsimha said, you come worship me on your hands and knees. And Madhva, Ramanuja, Shankara, a lot of these temples they would go to, they would never walk up the mountain. They would go on their knees and crawl up the mountain because they considered the mountain Uttariya. It's Adisesha. You can't put your feet on there. So can you imagine? Madhva, and I did it in Tirupati twice, never again after that. And I saw even old women doing it, but they had knee pads, like a big pillow. And, when you're young, you get fanatic. And I did it in Ahobalam. I never wore shoes. Small little things like this, but Madhva, these guys. So he crawled up. That wasn't a big hill, but there was no steps. And there was all these prickly bushes everywhere. So he told me, he said, I got up and I was bleeding. And back then there was no door on the temple. So he went in and he just did Achmanam, freshened up, lit the lamp, and started doing puja. From the day he started doing puja, his tumor, his cancer, started going down little, teeny at a time. The doctor said he would be dead within like 2 weeks. A month had passed. And he said he started to regain some of his strength, could breathe easier. And he would just do puja every morning. And then he could do it every evening as well. And then he kept going for checkups. Cancer was getting smaller. And to the point where the cancer apparently was gone. Now, I'm not a doctor, but maybe something like this can happen through mystical divine intervention, or through, chemo or something. You can zap it, maybe? No? You can tell me, you're the expert. But so spiritual zapping, his cancer is gone and he's there, totally dedicated to, and then obviously with all the money he made, he managed to renovate the temple, and his love and his conviction of his Savior was beyond comprehension. Like, it's on another level of love. it's like owing someone your life, you know. But without material, like you owe this to me, I saved you. No. So his people is what drove me in the end. I realized I want to be with them because they have the sukriti, the potency, you know. Just like I'm here with all of you. And I know we have to kind of get rocking and rolling, and I'd love to do a little Narsimha Homa for you. It's very short, but I'd love everybody to participate, so to come really close, so we can chant the simple mantras. Everybody knows these mantras. And I don't have many grains, but we just need some ghee, a pot for ghee, and then I have a plate for you and Prabhuji and whoever else wants to offer some. And while I'm setting up for this, does anyone want to add anything? Anything cool? Any amazing Narsimha stories or any questions?
You would talk about what you have.
Oh, yes, sorry. My second book, I have a table over here, and I have my first book called Narsimha, the Lost Temples, and then I have a bunch of deities that I had made over the years, and they've traveled with me to hundreds of Narsimha temples, and I would put them on the altar. They would do abhishek, then we'd do a homa, because people were always asking me, do you have a Narsimha deity? So they're very blessed and surcharged with potency. And then I have Narsimha Kavachas, and yeah, I think that's about it. And this helps kind of fund my second book project, because I don't like asking. Many times, you know, people come through and they ask, or they're trying to take. I guess I like to kind of have, it's like a giving, and because I'm getting to the end of the publication of my second book. It's been an awesome journey the last year, and I'm going to my last trip, hopefully next month, to finish the editing and then the printing. So any of the sales or donations or whatever go towards the second book. And the book is dedicated to him, obviously, Srila Prabhupada, because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't know who Narsimha is, because my parents are his disciple. And then through my parents, I got the Narsimhadeva deity, one of the only Narsimha deities Srila Prabhupada established in ISKCON. And I was telling earlier, I used to carry him in a backpack, and I had a horse growing up, so I would ride on my horse, and Narsimha would I would take him out and have like a picnic with him. It was great. Because they told me he's my father, so then why can't I? Yeah, so after the Homa, I'll have the table, you can come talk to me or whatever.
Prabhuji, if we take the deity of Narsimha, right, what type of puja is expected?
You know, everything in spirituality, every acharya says the same thing, consistency. It's not how much, it's not the quantity, it's the quality. And that's what I've realized. So whatever you commit to, how difficult is it to offer incense? A ghee lamp? They have these pre-made ghee lamps now, they cost nothing. And maybe your food, Narayanayati, Narsimhayati, everything is from you, everything is for you, thank you so much. It's not an installed deity, so grihastas are very fortunate. You guys have it easy. Now the brahmacharis and sannyasis, they have to most often deal with a lot of the installed deities, so there's serious rules and regulations, but at home, it's more kind of giving the energy of Bhagavan in the house. The house belongs to him, even though technically it belongs to Shri, the woman. But within that, the goddess of fortune needs to be there. And for her to be there, he must be there. So you can have a Narsimha deity, and just, if you start off with incense, the most auspicious is a ghee lamp. And how long does that take? 1, 2, 3, and for the forefathers. And Guruji. You know, boom, 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 go to work. So I always tell people consistency. And then Tuesday is his day, and Saturday. Sunny Narsimha, they call it. Narsimha also protects you from the planetary influences. So having him in the home, especially for grihastas, struggling with planetary, is very auspicious. So even a kavacha is the same. So in India, one lady had this little deity. I have a copy of it. I made a copy. And she had it in a little bag, older lady from Andhra. She would put in her choli. She was a very dear friend of mine, heavy Narsimha Bhakta. I didn't realize she had tens and thousands of disciples too. she was a very powerful lady. She would take this deity out. She had hundreds of Narasimha deities, but this one was from her grandfather. It was in a bag, in her trolley. Every single place she went, she would take him out, put him on the bedside or wherever she was staying. So I asked her if I could make a mold of this idol. And then they have these little round silver coins or whatever. These are meant to go in the wallets, the ladies' purses or the cholis. You keep Bhagavan with you everywhere. And sometimes in North they'll have the mirror on one side and the God on the other, and they close it and God is looking at himself. And the women will travel with this, and when they get to the hotel or whatever, they open. So don't be scared to be, I know especially in India, I find a lot of people are like, oh, Narsimha Bhagavan, heavy khatarnak. Right? Very dangerous. And I'm thinking to myself, dangerous? This is crazy. What's dangerous is ourselves and not having that connection and protection from our Divine Father and Protector. And so any other questions? Or are you excited?
Have you traveled to this Muslim countries and all for searching for Narsimha?
There's one in Pakistan,
Yeah.
but they tried to kill me. They don't like white people in Pakistan, so I had to get out. And so that was funny. One time the Muslims and the Hindus were fighting in Karnataka from Mysore to Narsimhadeva, it's called. And it was machine guns. It was quite a famous fight. Happened sometime. I didn't realize. I was like, what's going on? I ran out of the bus into the jungle. I was there like 8 hours or something. But because of that, I found another Narsimha temple. When I left the jungle on the opposite side, I found a Manavali, a Lakshmi Narsimha temple I had no idea about, and I drove by there so many times. So, yeah, some scary. Pakistan, there's one in Multan. And guess what they say? That's where Narsimha manifests.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah, but
they say it's a Mulastan, which became Bhutan.
Really?
Yes.
oh yeah. Well, even, honestly, if you study history, I love history. And when I was in India, I had to study. I mean, let's face it, all the contemporary Muslims are descendants of Hindus.
Yeah.
I mean, they're Hindus, just like the Christians. They're all Hindus. But now they're like, Swami Swami Sriranganatha John, or something weird. Like in Kerala, there's the weirdest state I've ever been to, because they'll have the Gopuram with a cross. And then they'll have Mother Mary in a sari, with bindi and bangles. And Jesus in a small dhoti. I was like, what is going on here? A fusion of, yeah.
Where did Narsimha Bhagavan really appear? Because
Ahobilam.
I heard this also, that he appeared in Pakistan.
No, he
like
appeared-
Mulastan.
He appeared in Ahobilam. Prabhupada said it, Mahaprabhu said it, Madhva Ramanuja, Shankara said it, the Puranas say it, the Upanishads say it, the Vedas say it, Ahobilam. Ahobale, Ahobilam, Narasimha. There's 7 hills, just like in Tirupati. So the main one is Sesha's main head, so he appeared on there. And then from there, he went to Simachalam. So Simachalam, they say, this is where he appeared. In Yadigiriguta, no, this is where he appeared. But this is love. When I went to Tamil Nadu, they said, there's no Narsimha temples in Andhra. He appeared here, in Shrilangar. I was like, this is awesome. And then I went to Kerala and they said the same thing. I met the priest of this head temple, John, I think is Father John. He came to me and he was totally a Hindu, converted. And he was like, my son. And I was bowing before Mary, because, she's the mother, so I have no issue. And Jesus is very advanced devotee, so I'll always respect. So I got on my knees and I was saying a prayer. Help me find Narsimha, Jesus. and then they have a deepa. I'm offering a deepa to. So Father John comes and he says, my son. And I'm wearing a veshti, no top, and I had my kamandalu. So I was very odd in his eyes. So he goes, how can I help you, my son? I said, Father, I'm here on a mission in Kerala. I'm looking for this Hindu god, Narsimha. And then his eyes lit up and he goes, oh, my son, I know a few temples. I said, can you take me? Can you take me, Father? He said, how about this? He spoke perfect English. How about this? You pray with me in my temple, and then I'll go pray with you in your temples. I said, oh, of course. And then he got on his knees. Our Father, art in heaven, did the whole prayer, And I was used to it, because when I grew up, I had a lot of Christian friends. Can you imagine my Christian friends would stay at my house, they would have to get up from another tea. And they would go tea. All my friends, tea love everything. Can you imagine? And most of my Christian friends, now they're either vegetarian, vegan, or they're incredibly successful in the world. And I would go to their house, I'd have to go to church. So it was like a respect. And I learned how to sing, because in Florida, there's a lot of black people. So I grew up with playing sports with a lot of black people. I'd go stay at their house, and I would go to church, and it's almost like kirtan. The way they, oh Jesus, and the way they sing and dance, and it's unbelievable. It's I learned kind of how to sing from those ladies, even though I knew the bhajans and stuff. Yeah, so it's pretty, it was a pretty cool fusion. So he told me, we prayed, and he said, come, let me take you, there's one in my village. So he took me to 5. I've seen over 100 in Kerala. But he took me to my first 5. And he left me at the last 5th one, because I wanted to go further south. And he had to get back to his responsibilities. We spent 3 days together. And he said, Dhruv, I have to tell you, though I've converted Christian, Narsimha is still my favorite. Still my favorite. He said he was our family Ishtadev. He's still my favorite. And I was like, whoa, that's so cool. So yeah, it was, it's so fast. Every time I go back, it's fascinating. The kings of Rajasthan. I met the queen. Do you know Rajasthan? The Gayatri, her name was?
Yeah.
So when I was young, I also had to make money. And so I had this textile import-export business I started to fund and I wasn't married, so I could do whatever the hell I wanted. I had nobody telling me what to do or how to do it. So I was like crazy. I would go for it. And this lady pulls up in a Bentley at one of my suppliers. And I'm walking out with my wooden shoes, a long kurta and like a dhoti. And she looks at me, and my suppliers come out, and they're like, oh, what do they call it, Rajini? Or whatever. Rani. Oh, paying obeisance. I was like, who the hell is this woman? She's just on a Bentley. I had no frame of reference. And then they're giving her stuff, and I was like, hey, who are you? And she's like, I'm Gayatri. I was like, oh. I was like, what do you do? She's like, oh, I live here. I'm between here and London. I was like, oh, that's nice. I was like, London's I just started. She said, you want to come for a cup of tea? And I said, I don't drink chai. Can you believe it? I've never had chai in my life. What a sin. I've smelt it. It's delicious, the smell, but I've never. I said, Ma, I don't drink chai. She said, oh, come, I'll make you like a tea, no caffeine. So then we pull up to the palace, the city palace. I was like, oh, we're driving through. I love the palace. She's like, yeah, I live here. What? So we go inside, royal greeting, and I'm this white guy, And I come in, and they're all like bowing and touching her feet. She said, we come into the royal greeting room, and we're sitting there, and made me a nice, what is this called, Gokul tea, with all the spices and milk. Yeah, it was delicious. I still remember saffron. And she said, so tell me, what are you doing with your life? I said, actually, I'm searching for this god Narsimha in Rajasthan. Well, I found a few temples so far. And I said, obviously you'll know where some other temples are. She, because she's the queen. I knew she was the queen by then. And she said, oh yes, there's one just here in front of my palace. Do you want to come and see? I said, what do you mean? She said, oh no, my great ancestors, he is the god of Jaipur. This temple is the first, and then Radha Govinda came. So we first have to go worship Narsimha Bhagawan, and then we approach Radha Govinda. And we went out the back door, and we went to Narsimha, and then we walked to see Radha Govinda, and I was like, oh my God. And then she hooked me up with so many other temples around the city, and then the king of Udaipur, king of Jodhpur, and it became this incredible experience, because the kings, the royals, are on another level, because they're extremely interesting people. Like, and they all worship Narsimha. Like, in Udaipur, you have to crawl through this tunnel and go in, and there's these eyes and teeth, and they say this Nishringa, make sure there's no boots, or not boots, I don't believe in ghosts, but like yakshas, rakshasas, they're not in the king's body or the queen before they go onto the throne. So you have to crawl through this tunnel, and they beat you with these dandas. And depending on how you react means you're free. And obviously I was like, hey! So they thought I was possessed, because I was like, I don't want to be hit. I just want to darshan. It was interesting. So yeah, the king, who couldn't be the king at the time because he couldn't have an heir, so his younger brother took over. He took me to all of these Nishringa temples. It's amazing. So yeah, that's oh, we should get on with the yagya. I don't want to keep you. It's Saturday night. I don't want to keep you too late. So we'll set up and keep going. You guys want to come closer? Please. As close as possible.
Do you need a microphone?
Normally I don't use it, but I'll do that. Just in case it comes up.
Yeah, that's what he's doing. Yes, yes.
Well, to the new temple for all of you. Well, yeah, I know. How does it manifest quickly? If the houses are happy, and we so this is for the community and the health around any problems, removing any roadblocks. This is always the main roadblock. This is always the main roadblock.
I think we need some elimination of cockroaches from the temple kitchen. So we can, that's a big problem here right now.
They are also Krishna devotees, don't say like this.
It will go from when this,
Cockroaches are Krishna devotees, don't say like this. They are eating every day. Gaur Nitai Prasad.
Cockroaches become mental.
Yeah. Don't say it's offense. Vaishnava Parad.
They're saying that they're sending them. We don't know.
Let's do it seriously.
Yeah.
Do you have anything? Do you have some rice from the temple? Just boga? Yeah, and then
Rice?
Cooked rice.
no, plain rice. Boga. Do you have any? Or some?
Uncooked rice.
Yeah, uncooked rice.
Uncooked.
Or some kind of grain, anything.
Chawal.
Safed.
Kacha chawal.
So we're gonna. Most of you know this mantra. The first one. When people hear this word tantra, they become scared. Think it's bad. But did you know all mantras come from the origin of tantra? And do you know who the origin of tantra is?
Shiva?
No, Narsimha. Because the first sound emanating from the tantric foundation is Kshom. And that is the essence of Bhagavan Narsimha. So even if you chant this every day, Om Shom, 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 so many of these rishis, this is how they attain siddhis, by just chanting that. So we're going to chant that 27 times.
That's the same one we chant, like Om Shri.
Yeah, Om Shom. Yeah, Om Shom. I do it first. Om Shom, and then I do Om Shom Swaha, and then we'll do Om Namo Bhagavate Narsimhaya Swaha, and then after that we'll do the Ugram Vira Mahavishnu. You all know this mantra. And then the last will be I'll do some names of Lord Nrsimhadev, acknowledging Ahobalam and the different Narsimha Dhams. Oh, good. And I love when we all sing together because it's the potency of his devotees. The mantras are powerful, but if we all do it together, that's where the power comes. Before we start this one, I always chant Om 3 times, and with this we put our intentions, our prayers. So imagine if we're all praying for the same thing. The new temple, our general upliftment spiritually and materially, health, wealth. May our children be very potent, powerful devotees. So we'll do 3 Hari Oms, okay? So close our eyes, breathe in. Hari Om. Who wants to count for me? Yeah. So we'll do 27 times. Om Shalom. It's okay if we go over. So now remember, I went to the new temple today. It was pretty awesome. We did some seva with Prabhuji. I was stoked. Well,
That's the guy I brought him.
Well, the thing is, I was young. My father said, if there's stuff that needs to be done and you're there, help. So I'm fasting a lot, so I'm a little weak, but I tried, it was good. But I saw that it's going to be awesome. The only thing we have to slide in there is a Narsimhadeva or temple somehow. We'll figure it out. So the success of that will be, must be, and is already happening. So I'll wait till ready? And if you want to open windows, you can. So remember, like Shalagram is non-different from Bhagavan, this mantra is non-different from Narsimha. So you're addressing him. So I always tell people when you're offering these prayers, close your eyes, meditate, become in that space of innocence, like Prahlad, and ask the Lord for protection. Om Shom Swaha. 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 So, the next one's really important because Prahlad is chanting Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, and then we acknowledge Narsimha. So we'll do, 27, huh? Om Namo Bhagavate Narsimhadevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Swaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Narasimhaya Swaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Narsimhaya 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 Swaha. Om Namo Narsimhaya Swaha. Om Namo Bhagavate 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 Narsimhaya Swaha. That was powerful. Oh, thank you. Now I'm going to do some names of Lord Narsimhadeva. And then after we'll do the Ugra Mahamishram. Give you guys a break from chanting. So each one of these forms represents a certain aspect. Some is like terrifying eyes, one who killed with his nails, peaceful Prahlad, Lakshmi Narsimha, so many. One who resided in a cave, one who came out of the pillar. So every time I do... No, you guys just do Swaha. Om Shri Lakshmi Narasimhaya Namaha Swaha. Om Shri Bhargava Narasimhaya Namaha Swaha. Om Shri Chatravat Narsimhaya Namaha Swaha. Om Shri Yogananda Narsimhaya Namaha Swaha. Om Shri Karanja Narsimhaya Namaha Swaha. Om Shri Ahobla Ugra Narsimhaya Namaha Swaha. Om Shri Krodha Narsimhaya Namaha Swaha. Om Shri Mohaloha Narsimhaya Namaha Swaha. Om Shri Stanu Narsimhaya Namaha Swaha. Om Shri Veera Narsimhaya Namaha Swaha. Om Shri Jwalamukhi Narsimhaya Namaha Swaha. Om Shri Ugrastamba Narsimhaya Namaha Swaha. Om Shri Pavana Narsimhaya Namaha Swaha. Om Shri Jyoti Narsimhaya Namaha Swaha. Om Shri Chintamani Narsimhaya Namaha Swaha. Om Shri Kevala Narsimhaya Namaha Swaha. Om Shri Rudra Narsimhaya Namaha Swaha. Om Shri Girija Narsimhaya Namaha Swaha. Om Shri Kanaka Narsimhaya Namaha Swaha. Om Shri Yoga Bhoga Lakshmi Narsimhaya Namaha Swaha. Om Shri Yoga Bhoga Lakshmi Narsimhaya Namaha Swaha. Om Shri Yoga I mean, there's so many more names, but some I can remember in my old age. Girija, the one who resided in a cave on top of a mountain, who came out to vanquish all the darkness. That's one of my favorite forms. So now let's do this powerful mantra, Ugram Viramahamishna. This mantra, you know why it's so powerful? In all the acharyas, whether they're Gaudiyas, Bhaktivinoda Bhaktisiddhanta, Shankara Madhva, everybody. Even the Sikhs know this mantra and chant this mantra. The Parsis, the Jains, they know the potency and power of this mantra. And there's a reason. There's one part in this mantra. He is the killer of death. He puts fear in the heart of Yama. That's why this mantra. Mrityor mrityum namamyam. Nobody, Yama doesn't fear anybody. Only Narsimha. So it's very, he doesn't mess with those who are under the shelter of Narsimha. And many of the acharyas talk about this. No, 108 is too much for you guys. It's Saturday. 27. Today is Shani. So Shani is a great devotee of Narsimha. Anything you do, Shani says, I magnify it 100 times. Because Narsimha made his day Saturday. Especially anything you do for Narsimha. So, Shani. Now we're doing, so magnify 100 times. So what are we doing, like 27,000 times? Oh, there's deities. There's Shani Narsimhas where Narsimha says, gave Shani the blessings, I will not give my darshan until they have yours. Like Sudarshan Narsimha. Sudarshan's in the front, Narsimha's in the back. That's a pastime. Because, the what do you call it? It's coming. Yeah, the wind. It's okay. No problem. Where's the... No, should be okay.
Your cardboard.
I don't like it. I'm not so supposed to blow on where's the camphor?
Is there a cardboard or
The
anything?
camphor is right there for you.
Yeah.
A piece of cardboard will help. Yeah, there you go.
Terrible camphor. Some people say that. Some people say this is inauspicious, but actually, from the experts in yajnas I've learned, during the homa, if the smoke comes, it's to rid you of the impurities and any anartas. You have to bring it in
The
to move
smoke alarm
forward.
is disconnected? Are the smoke alarms disconnected?
Oh,
No.
Hey, Bhagwan. Okay, 27 times.
Prabhuji,
maybe open the window. Ugram Viram Mahavishnu Jvalantam Sarvatomukam Narsimham Bhishanam Bhadram Mrityam Namamyam Swaha. Om Ugram Viram Mahavishnu Jvalantam Sarvatomukam Narsimham Bhishanam Bhadram Mrityam Namamyam Swaha. Om Ugram Viram Mahavishnu Jvalantam Sarvatomukam Narsimham Bhishanam Bhadram Mrityam Namamyam Swaha. Om Ugram Viram Mahavishnu Jvalantam Sarvatomukam Narsimham Bhishanam Bhadram Mrityam Namamyam Swaha. Om Ugram Viram Mahavishnu Jvalantam Sarvatomukam Narsimham Bhishanam Bhadram Mrityam Namamyam Swaha. Om Ugram Viram Mahavishnu Jvalantam Sarvatomukam Narsimham Bhishanam Bhadram Mrityam Namamyam Swaha. Om Ugram Viram Mahavishnu Jvalantam Sarvatomukam Narsimham Bhishanam Bhadram Mrityam Namamyam Swaha. Om Ugram Viram Mahavishnu Jvalantam Sarvatomukam Narsimham Bhishanam Bhadram Mrityam Namamyam Swaha. Om Ugram Viram Mahavishnu Jvalantam Sarvatomukam Narsimham Bhishanam Bhadram Mrityam Namamyam Swaha. Om Ugram Viram Mahavishnu Jvalantam Sarvatomukam Narsimham Bhishanam Bhadram Mrityam Namamyam Swaha. Om Ugram Viram Mahavishnu Jvalantam Sarvatomukam Narsimham Bhishanam Bhadram Mrityam Namamyam Swaha. Om Ugram Viram Mahavishnu Jvalantam Sarvatomukam Narsimham Bhishanam Bhadram Mrityam Namamyam Swaha. Om Ugram Viram Mahavishnu Jvalantam Sarvatomukam Narsimham Bhishanam Bhadram Mrityam Namamyam Swaha. Om Ugram Viram Mahavishnu Jvalantam Sarvatomukam Narsimham Bhishanam Bhadram Mrityam Namamyam Swaha. Om Ugram Viram Mahavishnu Jvalantam Sarvatomukam Narsimham Bhishanam Bhadram Mrityam Namamyam Swaha. Om Ugram Viram Mahavishnu Jvalantam Sarvatomukam Narsimham Bhishanam Bhadram Mrityam Namamyam Swaha. Om Ugram Viram Mahavishnu Jvalantam Sarvatomukam Narsimham Bhishanam Bhadram Mrityam Namamyam Swaha. Om Ugram Viram Mahavishnu Jvalantam Sarvatomukam Narsimham Vishanam Bhadram Mrityam Mrityom Namamyam Swaha. Om Ugram Veeram Mahavishnu Jwalantam Sarvatomukam Narsimham Vishanam Bhadram Mrityom Mrityom Namamyam Swaha. Om Ugram Veeram Mahavishnu Jwalantam Sarvatomukam Narsimham Vishanam Bhadram Mrityom Mrityom Namamyam Swaha. Om Ugram Veeram Mahavishnu Jwalantam Sarvatomukam Narsimham Vishanam Bhadram Mrityom Mrityom Namamyam Swaha. Om Ugram Veeram Mahavishnu Jwalantam Sarvatomukam Narsimham Vishanam Bhadram Mrityom Mrityom Namamyam Swaha. Om Ugram Veeram Mahavishnu Jwalantam Sarvatomukam Narsimham Vishanam Bhadram Mrityom Mrityom Namamyam Swaha. Om Ugram Veeram Mahavishnu Jwalantam Sarvatomukam Narsimham Vishanam Bhadram Mrityom Mrityom Namamyam Swaha. Om Ugram Veeram Mahavishnu Jwalantam Sarvatomukam Narsimham Vishanam Bhadram Mrityom Mrityom Namamyam Swaha. Om Ugram Veeram Mahavishnu Jwalantam Sarvatomukam Narsimham Vishanam Bhadram Mrityom Mrityom Namamyam Swaha. Om Ugram Veeram Mahavishnu Jwalantam Sarvatomukam Narsimham Vishanam Bhadram Mrityom Mrityom Namamyam Swaha. Woo, wow.
Please give us enough funds so this that's how we pray right now.
I think Tuesday we should do Yagya in Utah.
If he is
Outside?
No, inside the temple.
Prabhu, are you going to do that?
I'm here.
Yeah, we should do it.
What's on Tuesday?
Tuesday and
Tuesday is Narsimha's day, but then Saturday is also his day. Both.
Yeah, we will love to do it.
We
Yeah.
can do it inside. Inside the temple room.
Yeah.
Now,
We can do a little bigger one. Warm the place up.
Just make sure you turn the smoke alarm off.
Yeah, then you don't have
We don't have any smoke alarms there yet.
Wait, is it? Oh, okay. Then you're
There's
good.
no, but there's no power there yet. Well, we have a little bit
that
of
smoke
power.
alarm is used to it.
Yeah.
So we use a lot of hours.
Definitely used to it. So now we'll do the Purnurti, and you can subtly, you don't need grains to offer. You can take a couple of sticks each, whoever's close, and we'll stand, and I'll do 3 final mantras, and this is where for me, this is where I really put a lot of my, I think, bhakti and spiritual. Yeah. Okay.
Everybody got it?
You're standing up, Prabhu?
You have some, also the rice.
Everybody got it?
Everyone?
Prabhuji needs one.
ले लो तुझे नहीं है भी
Come close, let's all chant 3 times. The last time we'll say swaha. We all say swaha. Offer what your heart desires. Hari Om. Govinda Keshava Janardana Vasudeva Vishvesha Vishvamadhusudana Vishvarupa Shri Padmanabha Purushottama Pushkaraksha Narayana Achyuta Narsimha Namostute. Om Govinda Keshava Janardana Vasudeva Vishvesha Vishvamadhusudana Vishvarupa Shri Padmanabha Purushottama Pushkaraksha Narayana Achyuta Narsimha Namostute. Om Govinda Keshava Janardana Vasudeva Vishvesha Vishvamadhusudana Vishvarupa Shri Padmanabha Purushottama Pushkaraksha Narayana Achyuta Narsimha Namostute. Swaha.
Hey, those who are done, go back to their other
Who wants to lead?
Kirtan.
So if you guys
Just get up.